Hey there, my name is Jess George and I'm an early childhood behavior support specialist at the West Virginia Behavior Mental Health Technical Assistance Center, and we're housed out of the West Virginia Autism Training Center at Marshall University. My work focuses on supporting teachers, schools, and districts in promoting positive behaviors and social emotional development in children. So one important social emotional skill I'd like to talk with you about today is self-regulation. Self-regulation is different from self-control. Self-control is about suppressing impulses, while self-regulation is about identifying the cause of those impulses so that you can lessen their intensity. Self-regulation has to come before self-control. An additional factor that can help with developing self-regulation skills is co-regulation. Co-regulation is really where parents and caregivers can come into play because it's the way another person, say you, the parent or caregiver, adjusts their behavior to stay in a regulated or calm state when interacting with a child. For example, when a child throws a tantrum, it's unlikely that the parent or caregiver would join him in the floor and engage in screaming and crying. Ideally, the parent would remain calm in demeanor, voice tone, and volume, movements, and so forth. The idea is for you to share your calm and not join their chaos. Parents and caregivers can be constant co-regulators by resisting their own impulses to become dysregulated. The goal is to help children see what calm feels like instead of just telling them to calm down. It's not very helpful if they don't know how to do that. You can show them what calm looks and feels like through co-regulation. Some tips for sharing your calm include validating your child's feelings, no matter how irrational. Now keep in mind that validating feelings doesn't mean that you are endorsing those feelings. It sounds like statements such as, "I can see that you're angry," or "I understand you're upset." You can also listen reflectively to let them know that you hear what they're saying. You would start sentences with statements like, "So you're saying," or "It sounds like," things like that. You can also suggest that your child engages in an activity that can help restore their calmness, preferably something involving movement like going for a walk or coloring. Also, don't be afraid to give them time and space. Sometimes children aren't ready to talk when emotions are running high. Just know that giving them time and space isn't the same as ignoring them. So shifting back to self-regulation, children who have poor self-regulation skills struggle with building and maintaining relationships, paying attention, following directions, controlling unwanted impulses. Here's the silver lining though, we're not born with these skills. They can be taught and developed and improved over time. And parents and caregivers can play a pivotal part in that skill development. Self-regulation requires the brain to do three pretty big jobs. The first job is to show cognitive flexibility. That's just a fancy word for being able to stay focused and avoiding distractions. For example, ignoring the hum of an air conditioner while listening to or reading a story, or ignoring the sound of a lawnmower outside, which is what I had to do earlier. Another task the brain has to do is use working memory or short-term memory. This includes being able to remember single or multi-step directions, such as remembering how and where to put their toys away after being taught how to do so. The third task the brain has to do is to utilize inhibitory control. This includes being able to take turns, calm down, delay gratification. An example of this might be the child waiting for his turn to use a toy that he really loves, but his little brother is using the toy right now, so he is able to wait his turn. One of the ways parents and caregivers can support their children in building self-regulation skills is through games. Many of them you already know. Games like Duck, Duck, Goose, Simon Says, Red Light, Green Light, or musical chairs. These games require children to pay attention closely, which involves that cognitive flexibility. It requires them to look for certain signs or cues, which involves working memory. And then it requires them to respond appropriately to those cues, which involves inhibitory control. Another technique that you can use is breathing techniques. These can help both adults and children when they're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or on the verge of being dysregulated. One breathing technique you can use with your child is to have them pretend they're holding a flower in their hand, and when they inhale, they want to take a deep breath to smell the flower. And then when they exhale, they pretend they're holding a pinwheel in their hand, and then they blow the pinwheel. They can do this as many times as they need to feel calm and regulated. One more technique I'd like to talk with you about. It's kind of a 2-for-1. It involves mindfulness and yoga. This has been shown to help children be more aware and in tune with their bodies and emotions. If you search online, you can find numerous videos and resources for both mindfulness and yoga for children. As the parent or caregiver, you can be a constant model of self-regulation for your child, both at home and outside of the home. You can do this by staying engaged with your child and avoiding distractions, by responding calmly to them when you interact with them, and by saying your private thoughts out loud when you're using those self-regulation skills. For example, when you're waiting to take your turn at something, or when you feel yourself starting to get upset, talk through how you feel and what you're doing to keep yourself calm. It can really help your child understand what it takes in order to kind of deal with those difficult emotions that they sometimes don't know how to cope with and respond to. So these tips and tricks may seem small and simple, but really what they're doing is laying the foundation for self-regulation and positive social emotional outcomes for your child as he or she continues to grow and develop. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. If you'd like to connect with us on social media, you can find us at facebook.com/WVECPBIS. Be sure to like our page to get our updates right there in your newsfeed. For more videos like this, visit this website. Take care, and thanks again for joining me.